Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NetApp on Air. As always, I'm your host, Nick Howell. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode today. Starting a little bit later than we normally do, but there's reasons for that, but it's no big deal. You guys are here anyway. We're excited to have you here. I got a great show for you lined up today. But first, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping. As always, we want you guys to come and join us in our Discord community. So make sure that you head over to netappdiscord.com or just discord-gg/netapp. That is where all of us hang out. There's almost 5,000 people in there now, guys. So we're really excited to have everybody in there, especially as we're heading towards Insight in just under 3 months. 3 months? Is it 3 months? My goodness. Registration's open. There's information coming out all over insight.netapp.com. We're ramping up. Everything is getting ready to go. We have a ton of community stuff that both Drew and I are a big part of that we're going to be putting together for you guys at the show this year. Get in now. Get your flights and hotel booked. Everything you need to know for Insight is over there at insight.netapp.com. And make sure you go ahead and get your registration. The prices are only going to go up on all of that stuff. So make sure you get signed up now. And more details to come as we are able to share them with you as we put the plans in place. Let's see, what else? Other stuff going on. There's an AWS summit coming up that we're going to be at in a couple of weeks here in New York City, so keep an eye out for that one, as well as some other things happening in and around the industry as far as shows and whatnot. But we're getting into the summer. Next week is the July 4th holiday here in the U.S. We won't have a show next week as we observe the holiday, but and I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take some vacation, so that's really the main reason. But we're going to be having some fun. If you guys remember, Duncan was on a couple episodes ago talking about Storage Grid. We talked about doing an episode in RTP at the end of July. We are working on lining that up in some particular fun costumes, if you missed that. In case you missed it, we're going to be in beekeeper outfits. That's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure you're subscribed here on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch. All across all the social medias. It's 2024. You guys know how to do that stuff by now. Follow us wherever you like us. Come join us in Discord, all that good stuff. So, my guest today. I've been struggling to think about how to introduce this gentleman because he and I go back. He and I go way back. You could arguably say that he and I were some of the OG, like original evangelist, blogger, Twitter folks from like the late 2000s, the first ones really doing some of the stuff around VMware. And I'm really excited to have him on. We had him on at Insight a couple of years ago when we were doing everything virtually. But they've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about now. And there's no hotter topic well, I guess there is. Second only to Gen AI, probably. There's no hotter topic than virtualization, going through a bit of a renaissance in 2024. So I thought it apropos to bring him a good friend, the Rickatron himself. Mr. Rick Vanover. Oh, beer, 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 beer.
Yes, with
Rick,
that.
how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm great, Nick. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, anytime, man. And this is something it's long overdue. We've mostly focused the show on trying to keep up with internal happenings and keep the end users updated. But I also want to talk to all of our partners, technical alliance partners, and everybody that we do cool shit with. Stuff. I need my beat button. Cool stuff with. Out in the industry. And Veeam is definitely one of those, has been for more than a decade now. It's doing backup and recovery of NAS systems and how that all ties into the virtualization environment. Like, so the history of NetApp and Veeam is storied. It goes back. I'm curious to hear your impressions on, since you've been there, like, what's it been like on the Veeam side working with NetApp stuff?
Yeah, so this is my 14th year at Veeam on the product team, and I've seen it just like expand, right? I used to only care about the VMware ecosystem, and
right.
Then in 2011 we added Hyper-V and platforms and storage integrations just came, clouds, software as a service, Kubernetes, all these new things have just come into play, AI. Yeah. So like this platform creep that I've had to deal with here at Veeam has been a wild ride, doll. It's been awesome. But yeah, when I look at like NetApp and Veeam, it's funny, Nick, true story. Our very first storage integration was with a different provider. People will be like, that's cute, but I want NetApp. I remember people telling me that, okay? So trust me, it goes way back, and it always comes up. So no, appreciate the partnership. And then also, I love the commercial right before we started because they got on premises right. That's tight.
Right. Well, we tackled both. So we said on-prem in text, but we had the VO guy say on-premises.
Okay, the VOG can, as long as they get it right. That's
Yeah,
good.
exactly. I look back on where we came from, and a lot of this kind of stuff started with vSphere 4. And I always think back to the introduction of Cisco introducing 10 gigabit Ethernet and vSphere, I believe it was vSphere 4 that introduced NFS data stores. And the combination of those two opened this floodgate of adoption for shared storage systems. And then we needed to figure out a way how to integrate that into all of the backup providers so that they could just trigger our snapshot technology, because we had people adopting NetApp. I was adopting NetApp as a customer, right? Because of that snapshot technology for backups. So when we found things that like third parties that could then trigger that kind of stuff, that was the very beginning. And I look how we've come, where we've come from and where we're at today. And a lot of the fundamentals are still kind of the same. The 101 of it all hasn't changed that much. It's just become more efficient, more faster, and more capacity. Like the capacities have 10x'd, but the fundamentals of how we execute these things haven't really changed that much from my perspective. I'm curious to hear if like the evolution of Veeam has seen much different, or is it just bigger, better, stronger, faster?
I like the bigger, better, stronger, faster angle, but I would also add more to it. And I don't know if that would essentially be bigger. What I mean by more is just more types of data. And, Kubernetes is one that is a very unique platform in the mix, more enterprise apps, a lot of NoSQL type databases, right? So I see more things coming into the place in a bigger scope, right? So,
it's
but
like
you're
the
right.
Platform creep you were describing a minute ago.
Platform creep is real. And good thing is, Veeam has a really solid option for many angles of that. But the one thing, Nick, you're right. The basics transcend everything. But all platforms are not created equal. There are things you can do on a virtual platform you can't do in the cloud. There's
Correct.
things you can do in a cloud, can't do on premises. Okay. There's mechanics, there's physics, there's plumbing differences, and software as a service, another, distinct different type of workload in the platform creep world. So the thought here is, the fundamentals can be applied all these different areas. And when you look at some of the changes going on in the industry, it really puts you a lot of times back to basics. I talk to people all the time that are like, I want to change platform for this, but the very first thing I'm concerned about is what do I do when it messes up? And that's why they're talking to me. So it's awesome. I mean, Nick, I start every day like it's my first day on the job, man. I come in with this like young childhood energy every single day, and I absolutely love it because partly I have no idea how this day is going to go. No 2 days are the same in the office of the Rickatron for sure. So.
I never would have expected that for, I guess in a way, man, it makes me, I'm saying it in my head now and it makes me sound, it's a bit ego, but does backup not get boring?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. Because Nick, backup for show, recover for dough. All right.
Hey.
Yeah. When
that you need that on a t-shirt, man.
Oh, it's going to be my second tattoo. I don't know. Maybe
nice.
First. I don't know. We'll see.
One on each arm. Backup for show, recover for dough.
But the thought here is
put them together.
If you can bring that hero moment to someone, the recovery, that's all you need, man. That's when you go up to people, and I don't have it on this wall. I got plenty of things on the wall, but one of the other ones was literally somebody recovered data for someone, and the next day the stakeholders brought them a pie. Okay, that's just and like it was a picture on Twitter. It's just like that's awesome. And I wasn't even involved, but I saw it. So it's like that does not ever get boring. And the stakes are higher now. Ransomware and these cyber attacks and things like that. When you hear those stories ending well, that's like next level.
Yeah. And it's a lot of the motivation for what we've been doing around our autonomous protection stuff with integrated natively in the ONTAP kernel so that it's detecting it as bits and bytes are being written and read. ML behavioral things to monitor file access or peculiar activity, instant snapshot of just in case.
Love it.
And, we're seeing it catch 90 to 95% of just recovering a snapshot. And you know how instantaneous that is on NetApp.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest, if it does get some stuff encrypted or written down, you're going to have to dig some of that stuff out of the archives, however you've got it set up. We announced the new Cyber Vault reference architecture. Excited about that as a secondary and tertiary layout. But ransomware has definitely dominated the backup conversation more than I think I've ever heard in my entire career. Or just cyber attacks in general have dominated the conversation over the last 2 years, probably more than it has any other time in my career. And I'm curious from a backup perspective and the visibility that you have on that side. Is it to do with the accessibility or the APIs of the open sort of nature that the software industry has taken? I'm curious to know what your perspective is on why all of a sudden this is more prominent than it ever has been in our careers.
Well, I think ransomware has made backup cool again, or cooler maybe. And this is not a new journey. This is, at least I can remember distinctly 2015, 16 here at Veeam, we started taking it seriously and implementing things around it. But when I talk to organizations that have gone through something and it ended well, they always end their story with, thank goodness I had a good backup.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if ransomware gets in, the only choice, the best and only choice really is to recover data, whether that's pulling a snap. I've got shed loads, and that's not a cuss word, shed loads of stories of customers coming back quickly from a snapshot. And then a backup as well, immutable, put copies of backups in storage grid and things like that. I love it. That is very, very common how. And the thought is people just need to understand that the threat actors, and this is where it gets scary, the threat actors know a lot about an organization when they strike. I honestly feel like if an organization went through the kind of oh no, my laptop got bricked type of thing, a script kiddie, encrypt the drive type of thing, and They recovered from that fine, they're almost too comfortable in a false sense of security, because the threat actors that are out there now know a lot about the organization's production estate. And they know when the lead architect is going to be out of the office, and they know where the backups are, and they know about the storage snapshots. They know just as much as your admins do. They use many tools and a couple of really bad ones to do bad things, right?
Mostly because they've probably been camping out in your environment unbeknownst to you for the last 6 months.
Yeah, we have research indicating that some of that dwell time, which the ransomware trends report, and some of the research we have from Coveware, which was a recent acquisition of Veeam, it can be up over a year.
Yeah.
And let me put it this way, Nick. It's very possible some of the threat actors have more experience on a target's network and infrastructure than some of the individuals do tenure working there.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts to think about the level of investment that goes into some of these attacks. Level of effort and investment, I should say, of just time and patience and the willingness to just sit there and wait for the right time, wait till all the chess pieces are in the right place on the board to make that move. And
they do. They know
no
when
stopping them at that point.
And they know when the top 1 or 2 people are going to be out on holiday, on vacation. And by the way, a very big company matter is on Monday. That's when they're going to strike. It's scary, but backup is very important to getting out of that problem.
So not boring.
Not boring. No 2 days are the same. And I love it, man. I get I get different challenges. Not everybody can handle no 2 days being the same. Okay.
Yeah.
But I love that. That is right up in my programming.
Me too.
Yeah, I love it.
From the admin perspective, from your customers, maybe our mutual customers' perspective, how has the way that they, because recovery can typically be seen as a reaction to an event taking place. I know we've got the ARP stuff that we're doing with a little bit of machine learning going on, but I'm curious, is there anything proactive other than taking more backups more often that you guys are working on or focusing on? Like, I think that's the shift that I've seen is instead of reacting to something happening, is there's a proactive approach industry wide being taken for a lot of these things, whether it's server security patches and fixing for 0 days or for immutable data and archival type of efforts. Both of them seem to be proactive against some of these attacks. I'm curious to hear what you're seeing on that side.
So if I'm talking to a security pro, or at least a joint customer, a storage backup type person, talking to like their cybersec team, their answer is send me everything, and I'll let my enterprise detection and response platform sort it out.
Yeah.
And I think a storage platform like what you have with NetApp and those capabilities are fantastic. And then if I look at Veeam, Veeam's, I've always said Veeam's the crossroads of data. We touch a lot and we have some interesting insights. And one thing that on the proactive side that we released this actually last year, but basically as we move stuff over the wire, even just with an increment, we're able as well to look for some of those behaviors. Is there an onion link with an email going to Proton Mail? That's probably not a good thing if you've got files like that sitting on disk.
Yeah.
Okay, we can detect that even on an incremental backup. We can look for, hey, you know what? There are 10,000 files there and they're all encrypted now. That's not right. Or they're gone, those types of things. We can detect those types of bulk changes and some of the behaviors. And we're tracking behaviors of over 4,000 threats. So we have we've seen a lot, of these different things. And the way I kind of position it to the audience I go after is like, look, you want every available indicator helping you, because if a ransomware cybersecurity incident happens, it is because your primary mechanism has failed.
Right.
Your enterprise-wide, anti-malware, your personal training of the staff has failed.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't
the
follow
gates
the rules.
have been breached at that point.
Yes. So you need I hate to use this word, but you need every smoke alarm turned on with a full battery when there might be a fire.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the way I look at it.
Luckily they chirp at us.
So, yes. Give me the chirps.
Yes. I need the chirps when the battery's dead in the smoke alarm. Otherwise, I'm never going to know to change it. Honestly.
Indeed.
Because nobody's walking around like once a day, once a week, with the broom handle pushing the button. Right?
Indeed. So it's like one of those things that I feel that organizations are, and this is all configurable, right?
Sure.
But like, why say no to that additional data point? And
I don't want to get spammed, or I don't want. Yeah, but there's smart ways to do that.
Yeah, well, and especially just integrating with some of the other tools. Like we just released a Splunk app, which is a really good way to aggregate all of these things, right? And then if you get somebody that knows how to dig into that, they can have some real incredible insights, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm excited about their acquisition as well by Cisco. I think that is a perfect marrying of two awesome companies.
Yeah, and that's a joint friendly with us here too. So
yeah,
I love that, and we've had good uptick on that. But like the thought is, I don't want to give somebody a Veeam log to read because they're horrible to read.
Right.
But I'll have it fed into a proper tool. That's the way.
Yeah, and I look at what Cisco's doing with Thousand Eyes and now Splunk, and bringing it into the network side, which is arguably that front gate from an IDS, IPS perspective, firewall perspective, all of it, they typically stand as the front gate. So all of those logs and all of those like deny of breach attempts and things like that are all now getting logged into Splunk and being collated into stuff. And we've got the Veeams app now. We've got the NetApp integration with them. Like all Splunk being able to pull all of this together and deliver it in a digestible kind of reporting way is fantastic. So I congratulate Cisco and Splunk teams for that acquisition and that merger, because I think it was just is absolutely perfect.
I agree. And we've had a lot of good uptick there. And in fact, it's been one of our more popular type of things we've done in the security space, and just sharing this information. I mean, Veeam sees a lot. Why not tell others?
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. We've done a little bit of catch up and stuff like that. I want to talk about virtualization first. I absolutely want to talk about AI before we get out of here, but I want to talk about virtualization to the point that you're comfortable. I'll say that. About a month or so ago, we had Rich from Two Guys Tech on here talking about his sort of end user journey through all of the different alternative hypervisors and things like that, and kind of weighing up the pros and cons of each. And that was a great episode. If you guys haven't watched that one, I definitely recommend going and checking the backlog and watching that one. But Rick, if you're comfortable, I'd love to have a conversation with you about like the state of the union of VMware and virtualization, and as us being two OGs of that community, like where do you see things at right now? You know, do you have a sort of public opinion on what's going on with the price changes, or the customers having emotional reactions and looking at alternatives, and how did that drive some of the moves that Veeam is making?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. And this is a part of our technical careers, Nick, and others like us, I think, that have been through it, that we're going to remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year in particular, you mean?
Yes, we're going to remember this. And
because we've been through the EMZ acquisition and the Dell stuff and all of that, and it didn't really seem like it changed that much other than financial fiduciary stuff. But this feels
different. Yeah,
this feels a little different. Yeah.
So here's my take on it. Every customer conversation I have, this comes up. Every partner conversation I have, this comes up. And they are asking Veeam to help. And the best thing is that since 2016, Veeam has had the capability to move stuff around to different platforms. So this is not a responsive motion to a market condition. So starting in 2016, I could take a VMware virtual machine and restore to Microsoft Azure.
Yeah.
And then we've built that matrix to be fully cross. I can today I can take that same virtual machine from Azure and I can move it to AWS and I can move it back to VMware if I wanted to. But I also can take physical systems and restore them to 3 different virtualization platforms, soon to be 4 when the proxmox one goes out. And we've never really positioned ourselves as a migration tool.
Yeah.
We had this capability because sometimes people needed it in a recovery scenario. And I'll go back to the ransomware scenario briefly. A lot of times organizations get surprised when they have a cybersecurity incident. They have their backups, but they're not allowed to recover back to it. That's all evidence. Cybersecurity law enforcement, or maybe an insurance claim investigation. They're bringing their own forensic experts in.
I worked in public health care, and we had malpractice legal holds all the time. And
exactly.
It was one of the reasons we went to NetApp.
So think of police tape around your data center and your assets, right?
Yep.
So we had a necessity that kind of predicated us to make this portability engine. We call it data freedom, okay? And the same goes for file shares, not just image-based backups, but file shares as well. We can move that around. And the thought here is with the virtualization market changes right now. And honestly, I got my Windows Server 2012 Hyper-V shirt on for a reason,
Yeah. Isn't that when you guys launched the Hyper-V?
2011. We launched it. But when Windows Server 2012, in that we supported the 2008 R2 at the time, but when 2012 came out, big deal for us. And way back there, I got Microsoft Partner of the Year award up in the corner. But basically, you know, I'm putting my advice on Hyper-V is going to have a revival here. And the thought is, I talk to a lot of people. Again, this comes up every day. And, Azure Stack, HCI, Hyper-V, Nutanix, Proxmox, Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, Red Hat Virtualization. Those are the hypervisors Veeam has with Proxmox in beta right now. But
congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. But
we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But
but it's just like the people want to move. We don't actually have a wholesale migration tool. It's ClickWizard Kingdom and Scriptzilla. It's a lot of clicks to do. But Nick, here's my forecast. This is going to be a lot like 20 years ago. People were doing several P2Vs at night, for workloads going into a virtual platform. I would not be surprised if we will see several V2Vs or V2Cs going on at night. Okay, you do 10, and I'll do 10 type of thing. It's going to feel really familiar. So back to the other conversation.
That lived through that mid-2000s cutover.
Yeah. And but I see three very distinct camps. I see some people that are going to stay the course and not make a virtualization platform change. I see some people that already have a mix and they're going to rebalance. Maybe the other platform will take more, and maybe this tier needs to stay on this other platform because maybe they're highly invested in some of the networking or automation platforms of a virtualization platform that makes it really sticky if you've gone deep into that. But camp number 3 of I'm not doing a lot of those automation workflows. I'm not doing a lot of advanced storage and networking. I have a pretty portable workload.
I'm just running VMs.
That's where Proxmox, XCP-NG, and scale computing. There's a whole bunch of them that are going to have record pipelines, and customer interest. Proxmox is the one that Veeam's going into, and I think you said you're going to fiddle with it in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to use.
And most people don't know about it because, guys, Proxmox has been around about the same amount of time as VMware has. They were founded in 2005. They were just a smaller startup based out of Germany, I believe, or Austria.
Austria. Okay, got to get it right. I'm going to look and correct it. Hold on.
Yeah, I believe it's Austria, actually. Or that's where at least where they're based now. I know their CTO Thomas is in Austria. But anyway, so the reason I'm saying this is VMware was the 800 metric ton gorilla in the room in the late 2000s. Right. Microsoft didn't have an answer. Oracle didn't have an answer. Red Hat kind of had an answer with containers, right? With LXC containers and stuff like that. But even then, there was no answer for it. And here's this little Proxmox, and where it's found a home is kind of in the home labber community, which is interesting because, and I don't want to undermine or undersell the power of what they do for the enterprise, but that's really the only place I see them creeping up in my life for the most part.
Proxmox,
until the past 6 to 12 months.
In the early days, Proxmox was the textbook perfect replacement for VMware Server 2.0. If any of you remember that.
Yes.
I used that for years, right?
Or the Windows virtual one.
Or virtual PC
server.
And stuff, yeah. So, and it had 20 years or 15 years of runtime to innovate and go bare metal, type 1 hypervisor. And I talked to a lot of people that are very, very comfortable with it. And if they have workloads that are keen to run on it, they are ready to do that. And that's why, we've done our own market research. That's why it was decided to be the 6th hypervisor that Veeam supports. So, but make no mistake. I mean, it is a staircase down quickly. Where if you look at what can we do on VMware, what can we do on Hyper-V, what can we do on Nutanix, and I'm off the screen for the other 3. Okay.
So what does that mean when you have integrations with various storage providers such as NetApp? And does it matter which hypervisor they're using, or does it matter, and vice versa, does it matter which storage system they're using, or does all the Veeam stuff of backup and replication still work?
All platforms are not created equal. Okay, so
okay.
I'll keep saying that, but they're not. I mean, take the storage integration with NetApp. That's VMware only for those virtual platforms. And there is the Hyper-V native hardware provider for VSS, which
the SMIS provider.
That's very good too. Now, I got to be careful not to get, sometimes if you really speak your opinion, you get a free meeting tomorrow with the alliance manager about what you said, right?
Right.
But I'm not really good at explaining this, but I will say it this way. When we went into Hyper-V in 2011, we were really excited because the way snapshots or checkpoints on the hypervisor are done were very different on the Microsoft side.
Correct.
Namely, they just throw them away if you don't need it. They don't have to
Right.
merge them back in. Okay, I forget all the diagrams you could have, but it was fundamentally different. To give you perspective, really for the whole last decade, that was our number one tech support case. My snapshot got messed up on VMware, So it was very significant to have that different architecture.
Wasn't change block tracking supposed to fix that though?
Many things. Well, I'm summarizing for
okay, fair enough.
A lot of things, but yeah, the change block tracking and we made this thing called Snapshot Hunter, which would find orphan snapshots and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that happen, but from the plumbing standpoint, we had a different approach. And really, if you look at the resilient change tracking of Hyper-V, again, I still like Azure Stack HCI, Hyper-V. That's where I think it's going to be a big benefactor. But all that being said, the platforms are different.
Yeah.
There's some things we can't do on Veeam cannot do. We can do instant recovery on 3 of them, which is good. But we can't do instant recovery on all 6, if I'm counting right. Yeah. So it's, there's some thoughts here on what we can do. But the other side of it is there's so many ways we can look at data recovery that honestly, I'm always thinking about using Veeam to do things I never thought I could do. Like, for example, you probably still could do some instant recovery type things. It's just you'd have to reconvert it when you're not in a hurry or something like that. So there's just some drills that you have to go through, but make no mistake. I mean, I'm really excited for the proxmox offering due to market response, but I also worry because, that's a customer that is paying for a free hypervisor, right? And I've got a really fancy backup, so at the end of the day, we're veeam.com, not veeam.org,
Sure. Yeah.
So I got to think.
But there's also an element of, yes, but I want to play devil's advocate and counter you there. One of the smartest things that I give Red Hat credit for doing is allowing you to license support kind of on a per server basis. Mm-hmm. Back in the early 2000s with RHEL, you could buy $150 support contract for a serial number installation of Linux, right? And then they expanded that out once virtualization took hold because you would need more licenses for more virtual machines. It all changed. But I mean, that's where that really started in my eyes. And then Oracle adopted something similar for Oracle Enterprise Linux. And then I think Proxmox themselves even have a $100 per host sort of support thing that you've got a bat phone that you can call if something happens, or an email or something like that. I think a large portion of people would be okay for that. It's only the most tier 1, most mission critical kind of stuff that need instant response, 4-hour hardware turnarounds and that sort of stuff. But that's not the large portion of your gear in your enterprise that you're managing. So I would challenge you by saying yeah, Rick, I've got the free Veeam agent for Windows running on this machine right here, right now. It's also running on just about 2 or 3 other servers. And you know what? I use them to send backup images to my central NAS for all of them and I have recovery media for each of them.
Good one.
I'm a Veeam hardcore user, right?
Doing it right.
I love this stuff,
and
I didn't pay a dime for any of it.
Right.
So I think one of the reasons why it is one of the best marketing tools that you guys have, and if I'm getting a little animated and passionate, I'm sorry, but Drew and I talk about this all the time about how you guys have this model of where it's hey, we saw you downloaded the free Veeam agent for Windows. You got any questions? Mm-hmm. No? Okay, cool. Enjoy. And it's not a badgering thing. It's not anything like that. But it's an entry point at the top of the funnel to get people interested in, hey, if it works this easily on my home PC, wow, I could really use this at work.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the heart of the home labber community right there. And did I just sell Veeam to everybody?
No, I appreciate that. It's all true. And here's one more funny part of that, Nick. The Veeam agent for Windows, we stopped counting how many downloads after 2 million.
Yeah.
So that Veeam agent is really good for PCs, laptops, Windows tablets. It's fantastic. Actually, I have one funny story on that. Every single one of us watching this, listening, has the burden every holiday season to provide tech support to your family. Okay.
Mine's typically just more printer and Wi-Fi related.
In 2014, my mother-in-law needed a new computer, and I got it for her, not as a gift, but we bought it. And I put the beta of the Veeam agent for Windows that came out at VeeamON 2014. I finally replaced that computer in the holiday season of 2021. It went 7 years, and not a single time did it fail. And that was the beta. And I never updated.
It never updated it?
No, I never updated it. It just kept running, and
That's
it had
amazing.
Had backups, and the backup chain was 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever, because that's all that we really needed. But it just kept going the whole time. So I thought, that's just a really interesting example of how reliable this stuff can be. And when I also think about that, I call it categorically product-led growth. Let it go out and get it in the hands of the fans. And there's a certain risk for that. I mean, I'm sure there's a potential loss of revenue that goes with that. But, we just crossed number 1 in market share for enterprise backup. So we're doing something right. So
yeah, congrats on that. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
Hey, a familiar name just dropped by.
Adam Berg.
Adam Berg. Who NetApp A-Team member number 1, by the way back in 2012. What's up, Adam? It's good to see you, man. Digging the beard, Rick. Not quite Nick Howell level, though. You never go full Nick Howell.
No,
right?
This will be gone. I'm thinking tomorrow. I can't do it, man. It's too much salt and pepper, and I'm itchy. And I just came off of 2 weeks of vacation, so I usually don't shave on vacation. But right after VeeamON, I went to took the whole family to Italy for kind of city tour. It was fantastic. And I still get the neck right, but I didn't properly shave. So this is here. It's an LTO. It's a limited time offer.
There you go. You got to get a little $10 bottle of beard oil and call it a day.
I don't know.
That's it.
Maybe
that makes the itchy go away, because it's your skin, it's your hair follicles, not your beard.
Oh, for
all
real?
Right.
Okay.
Enough beard talk. So from this, taking it back to the beginning, the state of virtualization kind of talk. I'm looking at we have similar things. The only other spin-off stories that I've heard from customers are, we snuck in a renewal to buy ourselves some time to figure out how to refactor all of our workloads so we don't need virtualization at all anymore. And that's ambitious. Those are only the most ambitious companies are looking at potentially fully refactoring everything across the board. But I have heard that more than once from multiple very, very large customers, that they bought themselves 1 to 3 years with a updated renewal, whether it was the new pricing or they snuck it in before that change happened. But they bought themselves some time to be able to go through the motions, and it is now their top priority over the next year to 3 years to refactor all their workloads. And that's going to be their project they work on for the next few years. And I'm genuinely impressed by that.
Well, I think there's another angle that goes with it, not consistent view. I see the same thing, Nick. I see a lot of people. And the good news is the industry analyst community was saying, hey, lock in your experience for another year or 2 or 3, somewhat wait and see, but at least be prepared to weather an immediate situation.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, the clock is ticking, you want to hear, this is a different point of view. Some people have said, oh, I like that. And some people's like, oh, no. But I think it's actually a really good time not just to refactor, but also reassess what needs to stay. There's a lot of junk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rot, redundant, obsolete, trivial data. This is like the ultimate spring cleaning opportunity. And so if we do have to go to a new platform, I really hope organizations will not take with them poor design decisions of the past. I hope that they will not take with them data that they don't need.
Yeah.
It's a great cleanup opportunity.
Yeah. It's a great time to bucketize a lot of this stuff and just stick it in a vault somewhere. And, working in healthcare and being kind of a federal contractor before that, like, you never delete anything. And it was one of those, even in 2008, like, we were storing 100 terabytes of stuff, which was a ton back then. Like, we had a ton of stuff that we had to store, like 1995 versions of the database. Like, just in case, for whatever reason. Like, I can't tell you why that we did that, but it's that we did it.
Usually because people couldn't agree on what they needed, so we have to keep it all.
Yeah.
So
a lot of it was stubborn DBAs. We'll call it what it is. I'll call you guys out. All right, so virtualization, I agree. I think is going to be a tricky one for the next few years. I'm more excited for the opportunity. I'm excited for NetApp to find this new opportunity, for Veeam to introduce new platforms, and for end users to kind of be pushed out of their comfort zone maybe for the first time in 10 to 15 years. Like, there's a lot of people out there running VMware-based data centers that have been sort of sitting back, got the chair kicked back, everything's good right now. It's kind of Veeam's automating everything, NetApp's doing snapshots, VMware does what it's and there's a level of comfort to that, and they've spent a lot of time curating and building it. And then all of a sudden, here's your new bill, and it's 10x. And you're like, oh, no. So it's disruptive. So I think the evolution of what's about to happen is going to play out in real time. It currently is. But I don't think we've seen the end of it yet.
No.
There were some things that we could get into some of the Broadcom-y things that, from a hardware perspective, that I get very excited about that could be introduced that could make VMware go through its own kind of renaissance. That's the kind of like super 5 years out stuff I geek out about. But I want to talk to you about AI here in the last little section. We're doing a ton. Obviously, we've been partners with NVIDIA now for almost 10 years. We've been doing the hardware side of it. Now we're getting into the software side of it with RAG and some of the integrations that were announced a couple months ago at GTC. Obviously, we're doing a ton with AI. We're a data company. Like, that's obviously we're going to have a big part to play globally in this AI movement and for whatever's to come next. I'm curious where Veeam fits into that landscape strategically, as far as like, what's your vision of the next 5 years, how Veeam relates to AI, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I'll keep it short and crisp. It's actually crazy because there's actually a lot of AI going on with Veeam. There's 4 things I can tell everyone about and 1 I cannot. Okay. But I'll walk through the first one. Is what I'm going to call community and ecosystem AI plays. And what we have like in market right now, a couple of our vanguards have made some, like one Vanny GPT, and then another one has been built around LLMs around some of our Veeam YouTube content, the transcriptions of that. So now I got to start watching what I'm saying. Okay. So it's like learning from the Veeam YouTube channel, right? Which is different than like learning from Tech Docs. So kind of community and ecosystem. And those are available now. And the one that's not yet available in that, we announced it at VeeamON, is around Copilot with Microsoft, providing insights to Microsoft 365 data. So that's bucket number 1, community and ecosystems. Bucket number 2 is kind of internal core platform productized AI. And that would include our Veeam AI Assistant that is built into Veeam Backup and Replication, which that one is very much scoped to Veeam.com web property documents. What is A? How do I? Where can I do these types of things? So it's I actually like that AI assistant because I ask it a lot of Veeam stuff, and then I went sideways and said, why do green beans not have that much fiber? And it flips out. Okay. So
boom, it's like scanners. His head just explodes, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, I think it said something like vegetables are good, but I don't know. And then the other kind of productized AI is around our inline malware detection. I don't know where the wiki came from, but the inline malware detection, when I mentioned that we can look at stuff over the wire, that's an AI engine. We've built our own kind of learning models for that, for the over the wire during the backup AI and ML powered detection. It's not, by the way, none of the Copilot has a generative AI play, the Copilot community and ecosystem play with AI. Second bucket, right now, these two are not yet generative. We did preview the potential here. It would be generative, the second bucket of productized AI. Third bucket.
Adam said he's got a pretty sweet clip of you showing off those Copilot integrations.
Indeed.
I'm gonna have to get that or maybe one of you guys can come over to Discord and show it to.
And it doesn't have any insight on green beans either, by the way.
No, okay. You can't ask it about canned vegetables. Okay.
Yeah. Bucket number 3 is our customer experience. So our tech support team has some AI-powered tools to provide more efficient and correct and quick answers to our customer case and assessing logs and things like that. Fourth bucket of AI is actually a private AI implementation that we have.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I call it Veeam GPT, but basically it's ChatGPT-4 Turbo. That is where we'll do things like optimize code for some of our development teams. I'll do things like run my session tile and abstracts through for the shiny, things like that. And it also, I can configure it to go GPT-4 Turbo or GPT-4, and it actually gives you different answers. So you can dynamically on our internal one, things like that. And then there's a fifth bucket. I'll just loosely say where we're going to go and thinking about the resiliency of an AI infrastructure. We haven't announced anything there, but that's really the next kind of dimension. So Veeam has 5 really strong pillars of AI. In the first 4, all of those are in market with really strong. The first 2 have some strong roadmap plays as well.
I love the idea of the community and the Veeam Vanguards building in integrations and stuff like that, almost like third-party resource providers,
right?
But using them as GPTs that you can build out of ChatGPT.
And again, they'll come in with different info, especially the one that's from Christoph's, who's pulling in from the YouTube transcriptions. I thought that was brilliant because that becomes a feed, an LLM, right? And there's also I think there's also potential to work at like the data and middleware layer of AI powered solutions to kind of crack into what Veeam has to power more. Okay, so there's potentially a bucket number 6, but it's in the idea phase at this point.
Yeah, I look at this from a software perspective specifically. I look at this as a way to protect things that shouldn't be abused or manipulated, but also a way to enable things that maybe we weren't able to do previously, or enabling the average Joe that isn't a WebAssembly programmer to know how to interact with an API and create some cool new tools and apps. Maybe things that maybe I can build and manage stuff on my phone to manage storage or backups, or get some new alerts through Splunk or whatever, right? But it enables people and end users that wouldn't typically be software developers to build some of these things, or at least like the rough skeletons of them that could then be vetted, right? Mm-hmm. That's where I get excited about a lot of this. And
it really democratizes for an IT pro. It democratizes those edges outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
I can use AI to write a YARA rule. I can check the quality of my script, give me a starter script. Those types of things.
Yeah. And that's usually half the battle right there, is because otherwise you're just staring at a blank instance of VS Code going, I have no idea where to start.
Right.
I have no idea what to do. Short of PowerShell and old VB script, like that's kind of my steady state. If I'm working in Python or Go or anything like that, like I need help. Yeah. And I feel too old to go buy a 400-page book from Barnes & Noble and start that whole journey all over again.
If I bought that book, I'd probably die before I finished reading it.
I used to have the bookcase with all of them, all the way up to CCIE and all the way up to MCSE, and all of that was me. But man, not anymore. Let me see. We got any other questions here? Anybody got any questions? Throw them in the chat real quick while we're kind of tying off here in the last minute, last few minutes.
Just a comment, I'll say, why are we starting 2 hours later? So when Nick and I set this time, I had an emergency trip. I had to go to Canada yesterday for, my wife wanted me to explain, what do you mean by emergency trip to Canada? But long story, I needed to present at an event last night. And I drove back this morning. So short of me hitting the road at like 3:45, 4 in the morning, just to meet our earlier time, Nick and Drew were so gracious to push it out a bit so I could leave at a normal time. So thank you for that. I appreciate the different time.
No worries, man. We did have a question come in from OG. He is one of our OGs of our Discord community. NVMe over Fabric adoption's rising. VMware does it. NetApp does it. And it needs backup too. So when Veeam support?
I don't have an answer on the when. I will say that I feel that there's an opportunity to keep adding, some new transports and things like this, but I don't have anything I can share at this time.
Yeah. I do know. Thank you for the question, OG. Appreciate it. I'll comment and say that I do see the solution that was put out by one of our partners in Germany, Generative, on using proxmox with NetApp storage was using NVMe over Fabric and block style storage over Fabric like that. And I look at it as, okay, is block going through a renaissance right now? I've always been, Mr. NAS for life. I'm a NAS guy. But I do see like the resurgence of block with things like NVMe coming back. SCSI needs to die. Like this, it needs to ride off into the sunset and be done. There's so many better ways that we can deliver storage more efficiently at this point. So I'm looking at it in a sense of what is it going to take? What is so unique about it for more of the companies and third parties to adopt NVMe over Fabric, NVMe over TCP, all of these newer sort of block-based style technologies? There seems to be a resistance to it, and I'm curious if you had any kind of input on that.
Well, it's funny. I was just looking up on the side our internal thread on that because I didn't know that one was coming. The answer is no, but let me look and get the more. So the reality is when we're asking a couple of users who have brought that up, and I don't know if OG, if you've been on the public Veeam forum about that, but when we're asking those types of questions, that is actually the birth of, in our forum, that's the birth of how we would implement it. Should we do that? Okay. I will say Veeam is very good about not making too many promises in the future, because who would have thought, if I would have 3 years ago said proxmox is coming, you would have said, why would you work on that, Rick? Okay. Now you get it. But these types of things, it's always about what's the right, next new capability at the right time. So there's a lot of effort into the timeliness. We have what we call the shelf. There's stuff that sits on the shelf.
We got a lot of those.
A lot of stuff on the shelf, and can get aggregated into the code branch at the appropriate launch vehicle and things like that. Or the internal, first level POC is done. So the thought here is I think there's a lot of priorities around expanding the platform support quickly and kind of equating the different hypervisors. Right now, that's super important.
Yeah.
So that's when I think about what do people really want, that drives it pretty hard. Because, make no mistake, we have released more individual capabilities like in 23. If I look at the whole book of work of a calendar year, so much has been released, and that's great. But there's still a strong roadmap of what to do, and people want more things like NVMe over Fabric, right? So there will be a time, I got out of the business of saying no, but I got into the business of saying I don't have an update to share at this time.
Yeah.
Because so many times I thought we never would, we did. So I'm going to just stop. I'm going to stop saying no.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have nothing to share at this time. I'm going to.
Or you can say
Rickatron T-shirt.
It's reasonable to expect. There's one non-binding.
Yeah, right.
I'm married to a lawyer, so she trains me good.
Nice. Nice. Well, Rick, I really appreciate the time. Any other closing thoughts that you want to leave the folks with? Anything to be on the lookout for announcements-wise that you guys dropped at VeeamON that we didn't get a chance to talk about today?
No, just, okay, the rapid fire list, MongoDB, Entra ID, Veeam's going to add new protection there. We're real excited about that. For those of you watching around the world, look for your VeeamON Tour events in Europe, Latin America, APJ. That's going to be something you can attend locally. Really excited about that. Kind of a relatively new platform that we have at Veeam is the Veeam Community Hub, community.veeam.com. Great way to engage with local user groups, including in your own languages for those that don't speak English. And just really good technical information being shared there. So that's one thing that is in my team, and the product team, really engages there as well. So kind of a new property that we have, just getting the word out. Well, we got 20,000 members. It's not really a secret, I guess.
Yeah, no, well, talking to you right before the show was the first I had heard of it. So I'm glad you told me, because I definitely want to go get signed up.
Yeah.
But you guys' forums have been around, man, forever, since the beginning. Like it's still one of the OG forums that are out there.
It has been around that long, and it shows. And well, at least we got the new logo.
Well, it's PHPBB. That was out of 99, I think.
It's probably a lot cheaper than the other platform. So.
Right. All right, man. Well, Rick, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for adjusting the schedule and doing all that stuff, even with the emergency trip. Really appreciate it. And we're always happy to accommodate and shift times around when it's called for, when it needs to be done. But this will live in perpetuity on YouTube. So for those that happened to miss it, couldn't make it to the live show, I do see quite a few of you did. Thank you very much. But the one and only Rickatron, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. I hope I'll see you at Insight in a couple months into September. Come out to Vegas. I know how much you love Vegas.
Well, when we took the vacation to Italy, no joke, we were rocking the Insight backpack. So
nice.
I had that, I want to say 2016, I went to that. But that date for September feels awfully booked. I don't want to go off screen here and look, but I don't know if I'm available. But I am due. To go back to Insight.
The powers that be decided to move it up a month, and you know how that stuff works. It always has to do with contracts for timing and stuff like that. But it is September 23rd this year, guys. Not the end of October.
My daughter's moving into college that week. No, that's other month, August. Never mind. I'm gonna look at my calendar. I'm the worst.
No, let's figure it out live here on air. Rick, thanks so much, man. If you have any questions about it, just you know how to get a hold of me. But yeah, thanks. I hope we get to do this again very soon. Anytime there's any kind of equivalent announcements, this has been a blast, and it's fun catching up with you.
My pleasure. Really appreciate the time on here, and thank you so much.
You got it, man. Take care. All right, guys. Well, there we go. The one and only Mr. Rickatron has graced us once again, and that's one of those old friends that I have that I could constantly sit here and just talk to for hours about technology. Thanks again, Rick, for the time. There's a lot to talk about as on the lead up to Insight, speaking of which, and we're going to have all the details for you and announcements and things like that leading up to it, but you got to come join us in Discord. That's where all of it's going to be. So netappdiscord.com, come sign up. Go through a quick little 5-minute onboarding quiz and make sure you can see all the areas that you want to see. If you have any questions about it, just hit up me and Drew Claybrook, our community manager, and we can help you get through some of that stuff. But yeah, Insight's coming. All the planning's underway. Get into Discord. Lots of new episodes. July is going to be a tricky month next month because we've got the 4th of July break, and I'm going to be at an offsite at the end of the month. So bear with me over the next 30 days for episodes of the show here, but I'll keep you guys posted. Again, most of that stuff goes up in Discord. But my name's Nick Howell. Thanks so much again to my guest, Rick Vanover, today, and thank you guys for watching. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. But until next time, take care.